Hello to all, and it's an interesting topic which is very, very close to my heart. And I'm going to thank Shobha for actually trying to do this because continuously I've been seeing the kind of efforts put for all of us to figure out how we can work from home and make it more interesting, more therapeutic, more valuable for the children. Uh, I wouldn't want to waste I would, it's not wasting time, but to spend time in introducing myself. But yes, I'm the book actor and counselor and an arts-based therapy practitioner and educator. You'll know me more once I do the presentation. And if there are questions, we're going to take right at the end. So I'm really not going to waste time. And I'd like to start with the session today, which is all about how are we going to engage our children at home. Okay, and it is about how arts-based activities we can use with children at home. Now, the biggest question is because of this lockdown and the situation that we are in, is how do we keep each one involved? And I think the major thing is this: how do we really engage kids at home? And it's not only engaging them, how do we keep engaging them? Because everything is at home. You are the parent, you are the teacher, you are the friend. You sometimes have to bring in the socialization, and all fronts are more from the home angle than from the formal school or centers. A lot of professionals are here also, and I know we professionals are also trying to find out how can we reach at home through the digital media, because this is the platform we have. So I've tried to put up a few things together, and let's take it slowly ahead and see how this moves. Okay. What is really important to understand is when we are looking at art forms and we're looking at the art based activities, one extremely important point is that play is very, very significant. Whether it's a baby, whether it's a teenager, honestly, play is a very significant part because it plays its role in all the developmental areas. Plays its role in all the skills, and that is the nurturance, and that is the stepping stone, not only for learning, but even from the aspect of emotional well-being and bonding with your child. And we know that schools, not only in India but throughout the world right now, are on like a standstill halt. And everywhere, this is what we are talking about: how do we get the kids engaged, because it's becoming a bigger concern for the children who are neurotypical, much so for children with special abilities, because it's really a task to get them to stay and what to do and how to keep them occupied, just not randomly, but through constructive activities. So keep these pointers in mind, that when we are talking of play, we're not talking of rocket science. When we're talking of art based work, we're not talking of any fancy activities, something day to day which is even simple for you, right? What I have done is now, and this is something which I absolutely believe in, that, and this I've experienced in my own sessions over the years, that just playing with a child or doing art activities, different movement activities with an individual, I get to know so much more about that person than actually talking and trying to figure out, okay, can you give me your history? Can you tell me what you're feeling? But just through play and art, to understand the person from another perspective and different lenses actually, is much more profound. Uh, so some of the ways to engage the kids effectively. Okay, before we go into the different activities, that yes, following a schedule is very important because that keeps the mind going in in a very constructive tandem, because suddenly all our schedules have gone for a toss. So waking up time may change, sleeping time may change, food time may change. Of course, now with school starting online, schedules are changing, but still schools are not how they used to be. So it could be 3 hours, then a break, half an hour slots. Parents are working from home. We professionals are trying to figure out how to read. So creating a schedule which has flexibility in it is really, really important. I don't know how many of y'all will agree with me, but digital socialization is really important because of social distancing And because the children cannot interact and play with other kids, having a social meet on this platform is very important because some amount of socialization is going to be required. It's not the same, but it's still there. Making use of technology. This is making use of technology, that how we use platforms like Zoom, WebEx, Facebook, Instagram, all the other multiple platforms that have come up, Namaste, which is the India thing, uh, for the benefit of the children and us to understand how we can take it forward in this, because this really seems a new normal. Get them to do things and make things. So it's not just using technology to see, but actually seeing and doing is what I'm talking about. And family bonding, what better time than this to actually get together and do things together, because we are all sailing in the same boat, maybe at different uh, frequencies, the waves may be different, but we are all experiencing the same. Uh, the first thing I'm going to talk to you all about is all the activities that I'm going to share with you all are not some monopolize my own activities. It's over the period learn. The basic funda here is to understand the element of fun. Fun, I don't mean just enjoying. Fun here also means you don't really need to understand the functionality of it always. Actually sit and enjoy the activity, actually play, even as an adult, when you want your child to play. And as a professional or parent, this goes for both. You will have to get involved in that play as the child. Okay. So this is functional understanding, not necessary. Okay. The bigger concept here that I'm talking about is bringing the attention of your children to what you want to do with them by doing what they want you to do. Okay. And this is very important. This is the base and the crux and the foundation of any kind of activities, whether they are art forms, whether they are play based, to do with children. If I want the child to follow, I will have to do what they are doing and then get them to follow us. It's quite tricky, actually. We trick the children, you know. It's a hack, but that's how we are going to work towards. And this is the bigger concept, so that we reach to higher goals also at home that we are planning to work. While we are planning these activities, this is what we are really talking about. We are talking of the well-being. Now, well-being, academic well-being is just one part, but how can you connect the dots with them? What can you give? What can they receive? And vice versa. Take notice of whatever is happening in play. Play is learning. So be assured that they are learning at all points of time. It's about how active this child is going to be rather than just sitting. So even if it's screen time, if I'm going to be sitting in front of the screen 24/7, it's not going to make sense. But if it's an interactive screen, the whole angle and the dynamic changes. Okay. Uh, what I have done today is I have broken up the skills, and then we are going to do activities according to skills, so that whoever has come from whichever age group, because this is a general platform. So I really don't know who's come from what age group, what kind of issues, if there are any concerns that we'll discuss at the end. But this is a generalized way of moving forward. So the first two skills that you can see on the slide are sensory and motor. Now, when we talk of sensory play, it stimulates all the five senses, but also engages in a lot of movement and balance work, where I'm actually using, this can work with babies as well as, and trust me, it works with adults also. So I'm not going to say this is only for babies and this is only for teens and this is only for preschoolers. You can change, adapt, and apply it according to the age group and the developmental age of the child. Okay. So sensory play and sensory skill is one of the first ones because all our senses are involved into it. As we move ahead, we are going to be talking of motor skills. Now, your motor skills is basically broken into two, right? Gross motor and fine motor. Gross motor is when we use the larger muscle group, and the fine motor is when that discrete muscle skills, finer movements of the fingers and the wrist are used, and how that is very important in development as we move ahead. Then we've got the next three is cognitive, the language, and the construction. Now, what I've done here, cognitive is where we are actually using the brain for thinking skills, to learn, to remember, to reason out, your attention skills, and how when all these things come together, there is this whole repertoire that we are creating, okay, like a bank of knowledge, which we are going to use in everyday life. We are going to use it in daily life, and it's not something we think about how to use. It naturally comes to us. Okay. The next one is language skill. Now, language here, I've broken it into, it could be the listening skills, it could be your vocab, it's about the questions, what kind of social skills you have, your literacy skills, expressive, receptive, all of it together. And construction, what I mean by construction is creating and building something, okay, where you require strength, where you require stamina, where there is, of course, imagination and creation. There is coordination of the muscles of both sides of the body, I mean, this happens otherwise also, no overlap. I'm only just creating in bifurcation for us to understand. There is a lot of literacy and math. There is critical reasoning, and there has to be a willingness to learn. Now, actually, this willingness to learn is there throughout all the activities. It's not just here. That's why that first slide about big concept is, we go to the level of the child and then bring the child to our level of what goals we want to achieve. Not that we're trying to control them. We're trying to facilitate a session for their learning. But the child should feel motivated and should have this kick to play and learn. And that is what all our activities should revolve around. Yeah. Uh, so let's explore in detail now all these activities before we go. What I'm aiming to do is, I want to leave at least 10 to 15 minutes for question answers. So maybe for the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes, we will talk about these activities and we will keep moving ahead from there. So let's explore what these are. The first one I spoke to you was about sensory and what is all sensory play. We said we are using our senses, okay, all the five senses. And how do these come into importance? As a professional, you really know what it is. As a parent, also, we know that multisensory learning is also important. Multisensory play is important because learning is so much more fun. And how do we engage children at home using this skill? Okay, now please, I do understand at home we may not have so many materials. Okay, so don't worry about it. Whatever we have is what we use. Now, this slide I just put up pictures just for understanding. Very simple things can be used at home. When I'm talking of shredded paper, we have so many old newspapers or old magazines. We can cut it up. As a matter of fact, it becomes an activity where children can actually tear the paper, okay, which is again fine motor. You bring in your motor in the sensory skill also, okay. Do it together with the child. You tear up paper, create it into a game, create it into a story, and you can use this, okay, where they also play around and they also learn to pick it up and put it away. I've got another picture here which talks about, it's like an old box, a carton with paper inside and just colored balls. And of course, these are sensory balls, they're textured balls. You could have squishy ones, hard ones, dipped in paint, and they move around. And then, of course, you can, walk in paint. It depends how messy you want to get with them. Okay, you can also do it with the children, and that is the beauty of it. Different kind of balls if they're in the house. If children are okay and they're not worried, you can use balloons. Be very careful of safety when you're using according to what is safe for your child. Okay. uh, all kinds of play-doh and sensory, creating a pathway. Now you can do it at home very easily. Okay. You can have different floor mats, you can have bubble paper, you can put newspaper, you can put plastic, and create a little pathway for them to walk while you're doing an activity. But this is just a general one. I'm going to talk to you a little more detailed about the next three, which I think you can apply very, very easily at home, and we can make this very easy at home. First one is messy play. Messy play is really, really super fun and also extremely therapeutic in nature. Okay, so messy play can be done with paints, it can be done with water, it can be done with even actually different kind of materials and cloth. You can dump all your pillows and cushions together and open up all your dupattas and saris and jump around into it, and it is actually messy and then it's basically unfolding and folding back of things. When you're using paints, when I do messy work is actually using a lot of my senses where I use my hands into it. So it's a lot of tactile way of working. So I can use different, um, in the paint, I can use textures and sensory. So I can use salt, I can use maida, I can add fevicol, different kinds, not all together, okay? I mean, in different containers, and then use my hands to play with it. I can use my hands to paint on the paper instead of using a brush. Okay. Now, again, I'm putting a disclaimer here right now. These are generalized ways of working. But if you're working with any children with sensory issues, with tactile concerns, with mouthing, all special needs kind children with different abilities, please be aware. We've got to find a different way to do this. This is a general way of working right now. And that's how messy play can be done. You can do it on a small sheet of paper, and you can even, if you want the child to explore the room, you can demarcate a space in the room and do it there. I very often, I remember when my son was small, I would use my kitchen because it just became easier for me. If I was working in the kitchen and he was playing down, I would give him some amount of play dough and atta, just the powder, okay, and just how he would play around with it. And it's not just rolling and playing with the dough, okay. So messy play can be incorporated into your schedule. Yes, a lot of cleaning takes place, so you got to be prepared for that. The next one I thought was scented Play Doh. We don't need fancy Play Doh from outside. You use your maida and your atta, okay, your all purpose flour, which is maida, and your regular wheat flour. Or you can also try and use different kinds of flour we have, whether it is the bajra, whether it is the ragi, whether it is jowar, because the texture starts changing. Now, when I talk of scent in this, the reason we can use the flour at home is because it's safer. If the child mouths it, I'm not worried. They won't last you for very long. Maybe if you once you refrigerate it, maximum a week it works. Okay, not more than that. But you can scent them up. Okay, you can add food coloring into it and make it colorful. You can add scents. So sometimes if you've got, I have ajwain plant at home. So I take ajwain leaves and I put it into the dough. So when the child is playing, the smell of ajwain is so strong that it depends again, how I said, whether the child is going to be able to deal with how the olfactory is working. But you can create from normal. You don't need to, so nothing fancy. And how I can use the Play-Doh into my sensory skill, and actually it wouldn't even stop there, right? The Play-Doh, once you actually kneaded it together, you create from it, which again becomes fine motor. Okay, and from the fine motor, if I start creating letters, it becomes literacy and education. Okay, and if I make different size of balls, then I'm doing different concept of large and small and big and small. So how you take it forward is really up to your creativity and innovation. So this kind of different doughs can be created, whether with different kind of flours. So you're working on textures, you're working on senses, you're working on olfactory and tactile. And of course, if they're eating it, then it is also taste, right? Next one is bubbles. Amazing fun to play with bubbles. I love bubbles till date. And soapy bubbles are so easy to create at home. In fact, if you go online also, and this is where we use technology, you can create slime at home, you can make Play-Doh at home, you can make bubbles at home. And how do we use bubbles? And see how kind of a therapeutic value it has, and what can you create the bubble into a game. It could be simple blowing bubbles, and it could be nothing more than that, and that is so relaxing. Okay, right from that to actually taking bubbles to work on your olfactory, your oromotor muscles and the muscles in the jaw, because I need to round my mouth to blow. And a lot of children who have speech issues, and a lot of children who have issues with articulation, I mean, the speech therapist will put in this and agree with me that this really works. Okay, even if I want to track and I'm blowing bubbles and I'm asking the children to track and hit them, and that becomes a game. So when I blow bubbles, the child is tracking and bursting them. Then, like, the child takes the turn, he or she blows bubble and I am bursting them. So there is play. Okay, it's not just paralleling. I'm cooperating, I'm collaborating with the child and playing to some activity. And the bubble activity just doesn't become a random blowing of bubbles. It becomes very constructive in nature because I can blow bubbles and I can track them, I can hit and burst them, I can count how many I've burst. Then I can blow it up in the air and I have to jump and catch them. I blow down in the air and use my feet to do it, not hand. So again, how innovative you can get with it, right? And you can use bubbles. This is what I thought sensory play at home can be. Very simple things to incorporate from the home front. Let's get on to the motor activities. Now, motor, as I said, and we all know, is broken into gross motor and fine motor. Now, these are fine motor skills. Okay. Now, the fine motor here, very simple, right? If I've got jars at home and I've got balls, different sizes. If I don't have balls, we can use rajma seeds. We can use, even when you create play dough at home, you can make small balls. And how I use a spoon to pick it in, put it into a bottle. I may use a tongue to do it, to put it in a bottle. Nothing else. I may use my hand because even the grass, this uh, reflects, and this skill is so important before I go to the pincer grip, the grass grip. Okay, so I'm using all that to move forward. Okay, and they're simple activities. It's not just the ball. If I don't have it, it is transferring of water. Play in the bathroom while the child is having a bath or having a shower, or bring them out and create a schedule in your schedule. Okay, it is water time, play activity. I have different jars with different mouth openings, and then I have a tumbler that I can pour water into the jars. I can have from a bottle. If I have a, like the ink droppers we get, if I pick it up and press it inside, I'm using my pincer. Okay, and these activities can keep changing one bottle to the other bottle, then both hands get used. Okay, this basically she's putting flowers. Now, all our strainers that we have, that chalni we have in the house, you can just put sticks inside. If you don't have these sticks, I've used broomsticks also. Okay, where your old broom, I remove, break the sticks, I don't throw it away, and I can use it for these activities. I also use it for dot painting with children, right? And then of course the play-doh, as I said. Now there are cars here. Now it's great fun for kids to dip the cars in paint and then paint on paper with it and see the tracks that they're forming. Okay, let's look at what you can do at home beyond all those other things. Most of us should have clothespin in the house. What do you really think you can do with clothespin? Now, clothespin is like open, shut. Simple things. You actually can put them on the, if for example, this is the bottle, it's a jar and I have this as a cover and I open the clothes peg and I put it on here. So opening it and placing it and picking it up and putting it, removing it again. I can use colors to do it. If I have wooden pegs, I can make the children paint on it. I can color code them. I can play like a tag game with them. Okay, I am trying to catch, and whoever I put the clothes peg in is the one becomes the denim. Okay, you can use the clothespin so differently. Also, the clothespin, very interesting. You can open the clothes. If you have cotton balls, take the clothes peg, pick up the ball with a cotton ball with it, dip it in paint, and then you can create color into the sheet of paper or the drawing you're doing. So clothespin can work in various. The next one is rubber bands, something most of us should have in the house. You have the regular ones. We also use bands in the hair. Each one has a different intensity and strength, right? So how do we use rubber bands? So if, even the same bottle, if I'm going to use, and I've got to take rubber bands, open it and just put it inside this. Okay, so the idea is when I'm using one hand, two hands to put it in, then actually removing the rubber band out can be something that it's play, but I'm so involved and focused into it. I can take two things and put a rubber band around it together. Okay, so put it on and put it out. If you are really more creative, you can try this thing out. You can create a little pegboard in the house, okay, where you stick up different kind of, you can use your old door handles, round ones, and stick it up on a sheet of paper, glue them really well, and then the rubber band can go from one handle to the next one, and you can create lines and shapes in it. Again, absolutely simple. You can give plastic bags and ask the child to put rubber bands on it and can help you in the kitchen or in the work that you're doing if you want to sort things and put them away. Okay. Toothpicks and straws. Most of us should have these at home. Straws are a little doubtful, is because I know plastic is banned right now. But we'll all find, and if the old ones are there, just might as well make good use of it in activity format. One of the things that I've enjoyed doing as a kid, sometimes I do now also in my free time if I've got straws, is putting one straw into the other straw and creating a big line to it. I've noticed a lot of kids do this even in a restaurant. Okay. The other thing is, I use in school, we've done this where you take one straw and you bind it up from both sides, and it becomes really like a bubble in the center, and then you flick it. Now, when I'm doing that, actually, I am using my motor skills at both ends. So, you can take turns to do it. You can create stick straws on the paper and make shapes. Toothpicks, again, you can use for dipping and painting, sticking together, creating shapes, creating letters, creating a whole, like a scenery using toothpicks and straws. Again, very sensory in nature, but something from home. Yeah. So this is how I think these fine motor activities work. Now, when we are talking of gross, is where we are using the large motor skills, right? So we are looking at skipping and hopping and jumping, hanging, and these are some very simple ones which we can do. Uh, Creating on the floor lines or squares using tape. If you don't have tape, use chalk. If you don't have chalk, use crayon. If you don't have crayon, try and put a paint line. It all gets erased. Do not worry. Okay, you're not using permanent marker. You're not using something which or acrylic paint which won't really come out, and you have to scrub it. Even if you have to scrub it, do you and your child can do that together too, where you create these little squares where they can jump into it, and you can create a whole game up through with that. Okay, whether I jump from one square to the alternate square, whether I throw a ball, and like if two people are standing one in front of the other, it has to, like, tappi marke in one square, I bounce the ball and the other person is supposed to catch it. You can create a hopscotch at home doing this, just because it's all about squares and rectangles, right? And play a hopscotch game. If you do not have a hula hoop at home, take a dupatta and create a hula hoop. Okay, and it's not about using the hula hoop, but you do it differently. Where if the whole family can play together, it's going into that dupatta and trying holding hands and trying to come out of it without leaving hands and passing it around. Okay, or even with the dupatta, I can actually twirl it in my hand, right? I can try and tie it and make it in different sizes. If people have these handbars in the house, a lot of kids do have it. A lot of hanging, and because it's great for your large motor shoulder skills, shoulder muscles, and great fun to do these activities. A lot of yoga is really good. We don't really need much for it, okay? And they really build on your skills, and it's very, very relaxing for children. Movement and dance-based activities are all gross motor. So let's look at it, balancing. How do you think you can do balancing activity at home? Like I was telling you, if you've got colored tapes in the house, colored tapes can be, those electrical tapes that you get to put on wires. You can use that. We don't need something fancy. And you create some lines and formations on the floor, whether it is a straight line or a curvy line or a zigzag line. One is that you just walk on the floor, okay, with it. The other one is you can tiptoe on it. The third is maybe I have something on it and I walk. And because if it's a tape, I can feel the texture. I may close my eyes and walk. Okay, and I'm balancing. I can put a book on my head and walk. Now, understand, when I'm saying these things, you can do it. It's not that you tell your child, okay, come on today, balancing. Take the book on your head and walk on this line. No, dear. You do it with your child. Okay, because that's the fun at home. Take turns to do things, right? Then you're also doing turn taking with them. They feel you're involved and they'll be more motivated and more excited to do the activity. And sometimes purposely fail at it. You don't have to be perfect, because it's okay not to do it correctly. It's okay to lose in a game also, because that's how they will learn those concepts. Okay, that's how balancing, and you can create many more. Obstacle course sounds difficult. How the hell to do it? No, very, very simple. You take your chairs, you take some boxes in the house, and figure out how you can place them in the room and create that pathway like a little maze for this child to walk through it. Okay. If it's a chair with this, this regular plastic chairs, you can go under the chair, you can go over the chair. If there are two boxes, how do I go in a zigzag way from there? Do I jump over the cushion? If there's a yoga mat and I've laid it out, what do I do? Can I skip on it and move ahead? Because the yoga mat won't really shift, it will have a stronger grip on the floor. So keep and create an obstacle course. Your obstacle course can be this, and you can also say, okay, obstacle 2 plus 2 chairs. So there are how many chairs are there? There are one chair here, second chair there, and you can say, okay, how many chairs are there in my obstacle course? There are 2 chairs, there is one box, there are 2 sofas, and you can actually do numbers and see if the child is able to talk about it. And then you can talk about what was the experience of the obstacle course. Then it's not just the motor activity, it's gone into the other levels of cognition and language, and you see the overlap that may take place. Scavenger hunt is basically treasure hunt, okay? Where you can create within your own house uh, your own from the own house, find materials that you can hide, and then create the treasure map of the house. Very, very simple. So you could do things with toys. You can do it with everyday used materials. So for example, brushing, and you say, okay, the toothpaste, the tongue cleaner, the toothbrush, maybe the mouth rinser, and you take everyone, then you find a way to create a treasure map and a treasure hunt to it. It could be the toys. It could be even today what you're going to cook, and you create that into like a treasure hunt. How creatively do you do it is in your hands, right? That's motor. Going to cognitive tasks. Okay, cognitive, as we said, is all about thinking and following directions and using a lot of the memory and the mind and the brain to it. So identifying sounds. It could be sounds in your own surrounding. You're closing my eyes and say, okay, what sounds can you hear? What can you hear in the room? What can you hear outside the room? Can you hear sounds from the nature? Okay, and let them identify sounds because they're really listening, and that is a very, very important uh, area to work on. Okay, board games. A lot of us have board games in the house which are not played, and it's super time to come for the whole family to come together and play, siblings to come together and play. Card games. Don't create more card games. Create a board game. It's very simple to do that. Pretend play, where we all take turns to role play into imaginary. As kids, we've done that. Kids do, right? House, doctor. How do you get involved? How can we take going to the supermarket? What does it mean to go into the circus? Pretend play. Very, very profound. I have just realized I've already 42 minutes down. So I am going to go probably um, Shobha, can you give me a little bit on time, how much time I have?
Zil, please continue. Yeah,
Okay.
please continue. We can extend it a little bit also. No problem.
Okay, lovely,
Yeah,
lovely.
just
Thanks.
continue. Yeah.
Like these way, you can create so many activities where my cognitive skills are going to be used. So I may not tell the child, let's create, let's play supermarket. What do you think we'll require for supermarket? So then the child is also getting involved. We may need a little basket or a little bag to carry. What all do you see in the supermarket? A, B, C, C. I see there's a fruit guy, there is a game section, and then there is an involvement. There is memory. You could do sequencing through it. Older kids can even draw the whole space out where, okay, what does a supermarket look like? And like a little blueprint. And then you create that supermarket in your own room that you're in from the same blueprint. All this is cognitive task. It's also bringing in the skills that we require for development and for learning. Yeah, so this is really to do with cognition. When we talk of language, here I'm talking of expressive and receptive, both language skills, right? Uh, Again, play your board games, even in the board game, a lot of language is used and a lot of vocabulary can be picked up and taught through games. Any kind of games. You know, you have. There's one game that I really remember. I don't know if you get it now. It was called Kids on Stage. It used to be like a typical board game. How you get your chance, you roll the dice, and there is a timer, and then you move ahead. But you pick up cards, and there would be an object or an action on it, and I would have to enact it out. You know how you play Damsharas? Like that, enact it, and the next person is supposed to guess it. And in that 1 minute, as many I can do, which was super because there was non-verbal and you can create into verbal. Pictionary is all about the drawing. Taboo is all about verbal, right? Where I do not draw, but I'm going to talk and describe that one thing without using the words given there. These kind of games are very good for language skills. Even to play with them and create this pretend play and creating this tent, how to create it, what to do, what can you play with it is all about language skills. Your puppet play, storytelling, even when they are playing, whether it is using blocks and putting the shape into that particular shape, they just don't do it. You talk, okay, I see you taking the square and putting it in the square shape. That is also very important when we are talking of language. So even little babies may do it by default, but when you give the vocab, the words to them, they're listening, and that's how they enrich their knowledge. So what are the things you can create at home when it comes to language? What about a mystery bag? uh, I've always noticed that children really enjoy with something unknown where they got to find and figure things out. So you create take a bag, a cloth bag or a pouch, you know, like the batwas that we get, and which you can pull and they close at the mouth, right? And you can put different things inside. Now these things you can decide whether you want, if say for example, I've put a car, a lemon, um an eraser, a pencil. Okay, just giving you random examples. The mystery bag is that it will pass around. You know, if you're sitting in a circle, it becomes like a circle game. Or if two people can play, I put my hand inside the bag, and I take one in my hand in the bag itself, and I have to feel the texture or feel it to realize what it is. I can also remove it, close my eyes, smell it, feel it, and see if I can recognize that thing. I'm using not only sensory, but I'm also using my past learning in this game. Okay. Story. So you can create different kinds of mystery bags here. Storytelling. Uh, Very simple. You use technology also for this when you are at home. There are YouTube and there are so many apps now and so many people who do storytelling, and there are live audio visual ones. And of course, YouTube is full of it where there is audio visual. And don't just limit them to seeing the story there. Maybe you shut it and then talk to them about it. And then you may play the story and then stop it at some point and then ask the child, okay, now what do you think is going to happen in the story? Or how do you think it's going to end? And if they know the ending, how do they will be different? And you tinker their minds to start thinking differently and more creatively. And that's how storytelling can be done. Right from creating stick puppets from home, you use simple paper to create puppets, you do origami puppets. Again, this is where you use the technology because technology will teach you if you do not know this. You may not have me or somebody else coming to tell you this. These are the places where you can go online and figure out what can I learn, how to make. If I don't know how to create a dog out of paper, online जाके देख लो, बहुत simple है, and then go and work with the child. You may not want to show the child online, but you can learn from online for sure, right? What about word searches? So instead of doing a word search just on a sheet of paper, what if I create like a big chart paper, okay, and I make bigger squares with bigger letters, and I may not even have a letter. If I want to reuse it, I may want to make different letters of cards and ask them to keep placing them. And I place all of them and say, okay, now create your letters. So these are also great tasks. Vocab building takes place. My perceptual skills are working. and it's something magnanimous that I can see rather than just seeing it in a small book or small sheet. Okay, and that kind of games can also be created, right? Simple things at home, I hope. Construction. Now, construction, for me, it's more of creation. Okay, creating something which is going to be also part of play. Well, I create from the old boxes and cartons something to play with. Whether that box becomes my house, whether that box becomes this pinball game kind of thing, whether the box becomes my car to drive in, whether the box becomes a table to write on. It's how creatively I'm going to start seeing it and utilizing it. Also, construction using your block, your Lego, how I can put one on top of it and to create something, to construct it. Now, do not limit your attention to construct only with actual boxes and block play. Okay, let's see what you guys can do at home. Again, role play is also creating and constructing when I'm taking roles. I can, within the role play, I create the roles, I play out the roles. I can create the backdrop, I can create my costumes in, which is also construction and creation. I use things which are already lying at home to make it. So if I am the king and queen, then I take maybe the newspaper, the magazine paper, create it into a cone, put it on my head, and I have that head, and I may put a scarf on it for the queen or the princess, so it looks like that. Okay, something as simple as that can become into this costume, and the minute I am wearing it, you see the child's attitude and body language changes completely. Building blocks and boxes, right? Most of us do have blocks at home. If you do not have blocks, you don't need fancy Lego blocks or Duplos or those foam blocks or wooden blocks. It's fine. We have boxes in the house, the plastic boxes that we use or the steel boxes that we use to fill in our snacks. Or even sometimes we have small cardboard boxes that are lying in the house, right? Chotu cartons also work. How do I use that in building it? How can I use that into the game? Can I stack them up together and then maybe make it into like, hit it, take a ball and hit it and it all falls down and again stack it together. Cards, so much of concentration required on it, right? When I place my cards together and then pile them up, I still can't do it. Okay, one line on the next line. And how does that work? That is also construction and creation. If I do not have playing cards, what else can I do? Glasses. And I put the glasses on the base, on top. These are games we play at all these melas and fun fairs, right? They're all stacked and then I go and hit and they've got to fall. It's like a bowling game in a different way. You can do bowling also with it. What about creating maybe a hungry fish? So I have an old carton or an old box, right? And I create like an open mouth to it as if the fish is really hungry. And maybe the child and I paint on it. And the idea is feed the fish. So I'm aiming into it. So it's not just building, it's using that box also in a creative way. And I can build it. Say, I'm thinking aloud. If I have to build it, and I am creating Ravan. Ravan has 10 faces, and I have 10 faces with 10 mouths open, and I've got to feed the Ravan. What do I feed Ravan? Maybe good qualities right now. So you can just completely work differently from different perspective and see how that same thing can be done and used differently. Cooking is another way to create and construct, right from washing the sorting the vegetables, actually not even washing. Okay, right now the vegetables come, we are sanitizing them and we're keeping them. Once that is done, you can ask the children to help you sort it out, put all of them separately. They can put it into bags or ziplocs, how we have to help you put it into your refrigerator. Older ones, if they've got, with of course parental vigilance, to help you chop vegetables. Green leafy ones can be broken, right? They can help you. They can wash the vegetables for you before you're cooking if they can't cut it. Get them to get involved in it. Cook with them, bake with them. Uh, they will learn so much through it. there is measurement learned, there is taste learned, how it gets messy in the kitchen, how do I clean the kitchen. These are life skills that kids are required to do eventually. Why not now? So take this time that you have and see how cooking can become an interesting family activity. And I have a 19-year-old now, and it's this 3 months. Rotis are made by him. We none of us make rotis anymore, really. And he's also learned how to knead the dough. So whether it is maida, it is he's learned how to make pita bread, how to make naan, how to make bread, and he has been kneading it on his own and doing it. But that is because the opportunity was given, his interest was there, more importantly, and he could do it. Same way, little ones can get involved. You can put it all together and they may mess it up. You may have to throw it a little. It's okay. It's still messy play. Some amount of learning is taking place even in that kitchen, even if they're messing it up. That's how you can use the kitchen and cooking. Of course, beloing rotis and all that anyways happens. If I'm not able to do the circles, take a katori and vati and cut circles out. Huh? It works. Even when I want to do shapes, if I've created a big chapati, I can take a blunt knife, right? Like the butter knife, and I can cut them into stripes. And that also is a great skill, isn't it? So then I'm using my fine motor skills also in that. Correct? That's how we can use this part of the activity. So what I'm trying to say here is the process is easy. It may look very, very complicated. It may look, how the hell do I get my child engaged and involved every day? The days just seem to pass and I don't know what more to do. I feel I'm running out of ideas. I feel I'm running out of patience. But trust me, this process is simple. It's very, very easy. It will only get complicated if you try to make it more complicated. That's why the first thing I said is keep in mind that you don't have to necessarily have a functional understanding to everything. You just play, you just do. If the learning happens by the default, that's bonus. If it doesn't, still good. There is play. Uh, some concepts that I'd like to review with y'all because that will help y'all plan these activities. Don't refrain from digital. Okay, I know there is too much of screen time happening. I understand that things are very difficult uh, because we are using the eyes and it's very, very tiring, not for, I mean, for the child, even for us. But we'll have to find ways of how to use digital, when to use digital, how much to use digital. Boredom is something which is really coming around, not only for children, for you and me also. So how do we take this boredom to make it not so boring? And also, it's okay to get bored. I need to understand what boredom is, because only when I understand I'm getting bored, I will want to try to do something. The next one is whether it's a quantity of the activity you're doing or is a quality of the activity. Is it really important how many activities you've done through the day or how many hours you've been involved with your child? Or is it the quality that you've been able to give? It's a very exhausting process. I am not going to say give you any kind of, I can't really give a respite for that. It is tiring because I'm handling the house, I'm handling work, I've got to do the school work at home with the child, I've got to play with the child, I've got to help the socialization, keep the morale and everything high and up about, even for myself. It is exhausting. So you got to take care of yourself. But think out of the box. Okay, don't think same. आज अगर नहीं खेला, it's okay. You don't have to be very hard on yourself. Take small baby steps. Build on it. Don't try to do everything at one time. It's very difficult to do it. We are not here in any race. We're not here to prove anyone anything. Okay? So just take one step at a time because that will help you build your skills, your resilience, and also your child's resilience. And even when you don't realize, these are the kind of benefits you're going to see through simple playing at home, simple using of activities, whether they are art based or whether they are simple play based. You're going to improve cognition of the child. There is a sensory motor function. You're cultivating resilience, mainly emotional resilience. There is a lot of self-awareness that will take place. You're building the confidence and the esteem. A lot of insight, cognitive, critical thinking. Social skills will happen because you all are playing together. You can even figure out how to play a game together on Zoom and have a Zoom party of games. I'm sure people are doing this. Okay, I hear of Zoom birthday parties in any case. I hear of Zoom wedding anniversary parties and engagement parties. So clearly, I'm sure you can do a Zoom play date. Pretty sure that technology will help you with that. And reduce the conflict. Don't make play as a battleground. Don't make play as the way you see play. Let the child play. Let the child do that activity. If you're teaching a concept, it's different. If the child is just using play time as a time to be, just go with it. Don't bring in this is the way to play. This is the way to do the activity. Then that is going to ruin all this out. Yeah, that's like a big one. Okay, so don't make play and activity to be a battleground for yourself and the child. And genuinely from my heart, I think a huge thanks to each of you, because you guys are going on continuously working with a child at home, whether you are a parent or whether you're a professional, to keep the well-being and keeping the morale high. But in all this, take care of yourself first. If you are not anchored, I don't see how you're going to be able to pull yourself thin on that plate, because we still have a long way to go, unfortunately. And we still are going to be at home for a very long period of time, especially the kids, because schools are not going to start and most centers are not going to start. So you can't pour from an empty cup. So figure out what you're going to do for yourself first, so that you can even do much more for the child at home. Yes. So with from my end, this was all I wanted to share with y'all. Thank you so much. And now we can open up for question answers. I'm going to stop the share and look at your chats, because I think there are a few things on chat that have come. Okay. Okay. Wow, there are lots of chat.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, hi.
So, ma'am, Shobha ma'am, I'll just get her online
Yes.
because she usually asks the questions
Yes,
at
please
last.
do.
So I'll
That
just
would
do
be good.
that, and
Yes.
that'll make it easier for you too.
Yes, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hello, Zil.
Yes, Shobha.
Yeah. Wonderful session.
Thank you.
So informative and so comprehensive with everything. Yeah. So there's
Thank
one
you.
question here that says, please guide if the child does not like digital socialization. How do we encourage it?
Well, the one that is popping to my head immediately is that they need to do it. The parents need to do it, because when children see us doing it, they will want to do it. But don't force your child to do that. It is very difficult for children to. They will start. I know lots of children who've been interacting on the platform and were very excited to be there, and now don't even want to look at it because they're tired. They don't find that connect. So it is a difficult thing. Give them in small doses. Don't try and do like 1 hour together. Even 10 minutes, 5 minutes is good enough. Build it up from there, is what I would say. Okay, but you need to do it and don't overdo it. So I don't know what is the reason. Has this child not liked it ever? Or is there any other concern? Then we need to figure that out. But otherwise, you build into it.
Okay, and somebody has really appreciated your statement, saying that your statement about don't feel guilty. So she says that he or she says that she has said that it takes off so much guilt and pressure off parents now that you've stated it openly. That's a big relief for them. Yes.
Absolutely. Please remember that. Okay, you don't have to be so hard on yourself. We are all humans. We all make little errors and mistakes, and let them be the stepping stones. There is no point trying to run ourselves down and push ourselves down. It's great to be told that, oh, you are a superhuman. Trust me, it doesn't really Makes sense.
And people have also said that you have provided so many insights that so much of insight and so many activities. Right now, they don't have any questions. But if they do, they will get back to you, or they'll get back to us and
Absolutely.
we'll forward them to you. Yes?
Sure. Anytime.
Okay, one
Anytime.
question has just popped up. Just a minute. How
Ah.
to promote independence in and with play?
How to promote independence?
In and with play.
You know, every time you will give a child a choice to play and what to play with is also creating independence. We are, unfortunately, as parents also have this knack that we will tell them what to wear also, how to behave, what to eat, this is good for you. Why can't we give them a choice?
Yes.
Just give the, if you want them to play some games, then give them 2-3 games and say, okay, let's choose from this. But just saying, okay, today we are playing one game, this game, then actually it's not independence, right? Where does independent thinking come from? So I would say start right there.
Right. So choice making is a form of fostering
Choice
independence,
making
right?
is fostering independence in play.
Yes. And then increase it to start with
And
play
increase,
and then.
yes, also again, it'll depend on what age group we are talking about, right? If it's a little kid or it's an older one, it all really differs. If it's social media, if it's an older kid and may want independence and privacy in that room, right, with his friends,
Yes.
then
Yes.
how do we do that? So it will change according to age groups.
Absolutely. One more question has come. What is the difference between art therapy and art-based therapy? Very good question. Yeah.
Okay. Arts, where I've written is arts-based therapy. The S in the art is very important because I'm talking of different art forms. So whether I'm using music or whether I'm using play, I'm using movement, I am using drama, theater. It's a mix and integration of art forms. And art-based therapy is interventionist. I'm using those in activities to create the activities. Art therapy is using all visual art. So whether it is drawing, painting, coloring, clay, photography, as a medium to find therapeutic difference in the goals we are working with for the child. Art therapy is done by a professional. Arts-based therapy is also done by a professional. But art-based activities you and I can do.
Yes. Okay. Sounds great. And there are no more questions in. So
Okay.
we would like to say a big thank you to you.
You're most welcome.
And look forward to more such sessions. Yeah. Thank
Yes.
you so much.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Shobha. Thanks for being here. See you guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.